Hi everyone, my name's Paul Wood. I'm here today to first of all introduce Russell Treasure, who's going to be our speaker for tonight. He's going to be touching on mindfulness, which, you know, I love the subject of mindfulness, so I'm really happy I'm on the Zoom tonight. Just for everybody's, so everybody's aware that tonight's session will be recorded, but you won't appear on the recording. The only people who'll appear on the recording is myself and Russell, because we have access to the chat. Everybody else will be muted during the session, but please feel free, if you've got any questions or anything to ask during the session, then please feel free to use the chat option. And also, I'll say it now, there will be a VR code at the end of the session. If you get your mobile phones ready and your camera and you hold it up to the screen when Wendy puts the link on the chat, then it's just to give us some feedback. It'll give you a survey and it's just to let us know how the session's gone. So without further ado, what I'll do is I'll introduce Russell Treasure, who's going to be our guest speaker tonight on mindfulness. Over to you, Russell.
Cheers, Paul. Good evening, everybody, and welcome and thank you for joining us tonight. Just to give you a little bit of background on myself, I've been a mindfulness coach now for about 8 years, and I've been working with some of the first team, with first teams of Warrington Wolves and Witness Vikings. I've worked with Leeds, and a lot of the offload programs for all of the clubs who are involved in that program. But I also teach mindfulness to schools and prisons and businesses. And I just wanted to talk to you about what we're going to talk about tonight. Mindfulness is, if you Google it, you'll find that it says something like the ability to observe your thoughts and observe what's happening to you without judgment. But I prefer a shorter version than that. It's worth Googling, have a look and see what you think. But my version is, it's to give us a chance to have a break from worrying about what's happened in the past and worrying about what's going to happen in the future. It's the ability to almost stop your mind. We can't stop thinking, but we can stop thinking about past and future worries. And that gives us a chance to reset our brains. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about how the brain works with the Chimp Paradox. We'll come on to that in a second. Again, just literally 30 seconds on me. I love helping people. So about 2011, January 2011. These are just some of the people I've worked with and I'm working with at the moment. So we'll move on from that. About 2011, this was my life. I had this house, I had the cars, I was flying from Manchester Barton, I was racing, motorsport. And over a period of about 10 years, I was living the dream. You know, I had a business that was doing quite well, and I was into my cars, I was into flying, and I had a little collection of cars there, as you can see. And probably my favorite car that I've ever had is the orange Lotus that we went racing all over the country and all over Europe with. And about 2008, my life started changing because we had, if anybody out there is old enough to remember, the global financial situation started to deteriorate, and my business, which was mainly based around property, started to go down, and I didn't have the mental capacity to deal with it. I was just riding the crest of the wave, and when it started going wrong, I couldn't cope. So over about 2 years, my life deteriorated into a round of drinking too much. I was fending off creditors, banks, credit cards, car loans, all of this sort of thing on a permanent basis. And when it got to about the back end of 2010, I found that I knew that everything in my life was going to go. So all of the stuff I had, all these cars and my house, And also my partner of 17 years, we broke up as well. And I went to bankruptcy court on the 13th of January 2011, after 2 years of, of real struggle. And the picture in the bottom right-hand corner is a train that I was watching go by as I was thinking about what I was going to do in the future. You know, my future life was unknown, and I wasn't sure what was going to happen. So I spent some time going down the side of this railway line near Preston, where I lived. And it was a point in my life where I was thinking, you know, do I still want to be here? Are people going to still want to, want me around? Are they better off without me here? So I decided that I was going to have to do something about it. And I found a mindfulness class, which was based in or near Warrington, and I lived in Preston. So every Friday night, I came down to Warrington to learn how to do mindfulness and meditation. And during that period, I started learning more and more about how the mind works. And I found this fantastic group of people who were already into all this sort of thing. And they were doing mindfulness and meditation and relaxation and all this sort of thing. And I started reading different sorts of books because I was into motorsport and planes and, you know, all this sort of thing. I started thinking about how I could help myself out and how life could be slightly different. And the best book by far, and it's something I'd really like everybody to have a look at, and if you've not heard of it already, is a book called The Chimp Paradox. And in it, Professor Steve Peters talks to us about how the mind can be split down into three basic areas. This is a picture of the brain that you can see. And there are lots and lots of different areas, but the main three are the chimp, the computer, and the human. So the human is resident here at the front of the head. The chimp's in the middle, so it's one of the oldest parts of the brain. And the computer is the area where all our learned behaviours are stored. Things like tying a shoelace or just an excuse to have a drink, picking a cup up. So the computer is the fastest part. If we need to tie our lace, we don't think about it. Nothing else is involved. We just bend down and tie our lace. The next fastest is the chimp, and the slowest is the human. So as you can see there, the computer is 5 times faster than the chimp, and the chimp is 4 times faster than the human. So what happens with the human? If we get to make a decision and the human's in charge, i.e. the blood is all at the front of the head here, then we make calm, logical, rational decisions. The chimp is the part that makes us run away or fight. So if 2 million years ago, if we were in the jungle and we were being hunted by a predator, or we maybe heard a predator or smelled one, this part of the brain would light up, take all the blood, and get us to either run away or fight. And in order to do that, we would have to tense all our muscles. So if you ever find yourself gritting your teeth or with your shoulders up like this, or even when you're angry, getting your fists like this, then it means that your chimp has taken over. And the chimp really, we used to need it a lot to stay alive, but now we don't need it that much, but it's still there and it's still as active as it was when we used to need it all those millions of years ago. Now, one of the challenges with constantly being in fight or flight is elevated blood pressure, higher heart rate, faster breathing, shallower breathing, because we're trying to pump oxygen around our body to get the muscles ready for fight or flight. So if we have got some stuff going on in our lives, and I usually say it's one of 4 main areas where we have our main challenges, and that's work, money, health, and relationships. Relationships could be any, by the way, not just romantic ones. It could be family, friends, or drivers, or people in shops. And if somebody says or does something that our chimp doesn't like, and by the way, you're supposed to name your chimp. So if you get a chance, name your chimp. Just think of the first name that comes into your head. Mine's called Charlie. So if I'm running late in my car and I find myself gripping the steering wheel and gritting my teeth, it's because my chimp's gone ahead and it's thinking, you're going to be late, you might get sacked, you'll have no money, you can't buy food or pay your rent, you're going to die. Because the chimp, or this fight or flight system, is all about keeping us alive. So if you find yourself in that fight or flight system a lot, it might be that your chimp is very active. And with mindfulness, I want to show you how we can kind of pull back from that position and make these calm, logical decisions from the human part of the brain at the front here. With the time we've got, I'm not really going to touch on the computer tonight. We'll leave that for another time. But suffice to say, we can program the computer with behaviors. So if we're running late now, I've done this so many times that instead of getting really tense and gripping my wheel and starting sort of shouting at other drivers if they get in my way, I stay calm and I think, well, what can I do in order to keep my chimp asleep? What can I do to keep Charlie from getting active and making me tense like this? Well, maybe I can do some breathing. Maybe I can do some meditation. Maybe I can think about what's happening in the present moment. Now, it's always now. This is something I want you to think about and take away. It's always now. It's never not now. So there's always something happening right now that we can think about or do, which will save our minds from going forward in time and worrying about something that might happen. We have about 30 to 60,000 thoughts every day, and about 90% of those are repetitive. So we're thinking the same things over and over again. It's like a human disease. If we can get our minds to notice that, and mindfulness, a lot of mindfulness is about noticing what we're thinking, how we're thinking, what we're doing. So if we can get our minds to notice things, then we can do something about it. Talking about the future there, but if you think about the past as well, you might find yourself at some point saying, I wish I hadn't done that. I wish that hadn't happened. Why did he do that? Or why did she say that? So our minds are flitting constantly between the past and the future. And it's only when our minds are in the present that we can find peace, that we can find a bit of peace of mind. What I'm trying to sell you tonight is peace of mind. If you can practice a little bit of mindfulness with me tonight, and then I'll give you some resources to take away and practice as well, you can have a calmer life. You're not going to get stressed at small things like forgetting to get milk on your way home, or I don't know if anybody of a certain age has tried to put the kettle in the fridge by mistake, and you think, you idiot. You call yourself an idiot if you make a mistake, don't you? Well, that's the chimp. That the chimp is saying you are incompetent. We are not going to survive if you keep making mistakes like that. And the chimp gets the heart beating faster, it pumps up the blood pressure because it wants the muscles ready to run away from this perceived threat. Because the amygdala is more or less exactly the same as it was 2 million years ago. So perceived threats make us react exactly the same as actual threats. And we don't want to get rid of this ability to run away or fight, because it might serve us one day. We might run away from a speeding car, and it saves our life. So we can't get rid of the amygdala, but what we can do is make friends with it. But we can also get it to fall back to sleep. Talking about sleep, one of my favorite subjects is sleep. And I think that the vast majority of people I speak to at the moment are struggling to either get to sleep or stay asleep. Okay. If you are struggling to get to sleep and you're led there in bed staring at the ceiling thinking, I can't get to sleep, why can I not get to sleep? I need some sleep. If I don't sleep properly tonight, I'm going to be struggling tomorrow. And we're in fight or flight because we're actually worrying about not sleeping. So we've got even less chance of falling asleep. So what we're going to do tonight, I would like you to to take away and try tonight as you're falling asleep. Some of the resources I'm just going to give you verbally now, and we'll try and get them in the chat for you before the end of the night, are number one is the book, The Chimp Paradox. If you're not a big reader, get it on audiobook. It is the best book you will ever read. It can make a huge difference to your life. I've got some videos on YouTube. If you just YouTube Russell Treasure, you'll find some videos on there. And another couple of books, if you're into reading, one is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and one is Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. So I'm giving you a lot of information here, guys, I know, but if you can just pick up one or two of these books and maybe start watching some of the videos, life can get easier and calmer, because you'll learn how to take your mind out of the future constructs. So our minds construct the future, and 90% of the things we worry about never actually come to pass. But it also worries about the past. So when you find yourself worrying, and you notice that you're worrying because you've been doing a little bit of mindfulness with us tonight, then you can do something about it. And what I'd like to do is take you through a short mindfulness session now, which will enable you to experience your own ability to stop thinking backwards and forwards in time and think about something that's happening right now. Because the more of these, if you do it for 5 minutes, that's great. 10 minutes a day is better. But if you can have these short periods where you're not in your mind, so it's mindfulness, but actually what we're going to do tonight is empty your mind. We're going to have mind emptiness. Other forms of mindfulness, just to give you a couple of ideas for something that you might want to look into. You could walk mindfully. You could feel each footstep as it touches the floor. You could eat mindfully, so you can actually enjoy the food as it's in your mouth using your senses. You can taste food, you can smell it, you can touch it, see what the texture is, enjoy each mouthful. You can mindfully listen. So if somebody's talking, you can be fully focused on what they're saying. And that way they feel like, you are genuinely interested in what they've got to say. If you get the chance and you're really interested in mindfulness, I would highly recommend doing a mindfulness-based stress reduction course. It's over about 6 weeks, and at the moment, I guess, we can't get out to go to college and things, but there is stuff online. And if you want to learn more about mindfulness, that's a great place to start. Also, there are things like apps like Calm and Headspace. So something that you can just plug your earphones in at night and listen to as you're falling asleep. But you do have to pay for some of those. There's lots and lots of mindfulness videos out there on YouTube. Everything's free. So it's probably worth giving them a go first. So let's go through 3 stages now. The 3 stages of a mindfulness of the breath and a mindfulness of the body session. What we're going to do is the first stage is we're going to get the body completely out of fight or flight. So if anybody's got any aches at the moment, maybe your traps are aching because you've been holding them up, maybe your jaw, your temples because you've been clamping your jaw together, maybe your glutes we don't even realize we're doing it, but our glutes are tense. We're going to take all that away. Then we're going to get the mind to focus on 3 things. And when the mind's got 3 things to think about, it cannot think about anything else, past or future. And then the third thing is I'm going to give you an extra little session to fall asleep. I'm just going to tack that onto the end of the mindfulness session, so that if you do these 3 things tonight when you're trying to fall asleep, you will clear the body of tension, you'll clear the mind of thoughts, and then you'll give the brain something. It's a little technique that we use to get the brain to focus on one thing. So what I'd like everybody to do is, if you can get as comfortable as you can in your chair, please. If you wish to turn your camera off, you can. Get comfortable and lean back in the chair, but don't slouch, so don't slip down the chair. If you were doing this in bed, you'd start off laid on your back. place your hands onto your lap, not touching, just one on each thigh. And then put your feet flat on the floor. Close your eyes, please. The technique is that when we breathe in, we tense, and when we breathe out, we relax. That means that you are learning how your body feels when it's tense. So you've got a muscle memory, and you'll be able to notice when it's happening in the future, and then learn how it feels to be relaxed. So you know, we just sat here. We don't have to be anywhere or do anything right now. So we can fully relax the body. And we're going to start at the feet. What I'd like you to do is when you breathe in, tense your feet. And when you breathe out, relax them. And don't go at my speed. Breathe at your own speed. Don't change anything. Don't change how you breathe, except for one little tip. And that is breathe in through your nose if you can. If it's possible for you, always breathe in through your nose. You can breathe out through your nose or your mouth, it's up to you, but breathe in through your nose. You get about an extra 20% oxygen into your lungs that way, and there's a filtration as well as it goes through your nostrils. If you breathe in through your mouth, it's nowhere near as good for you. So next in breath, tense your calves. And you can do that just by simply pointing your toes up. So as you breathe in, point your toes up. And as you breathe out, relax them again. Next, let's do the quads. So this time, as you breathe in, point your toes down. And as you breathe out, relax them again. Now the glutes. As you breathe in, tense your glutes so that you sit up in the chair a millimetre or two. And as you breathe out, relax them. Next, we're going to do the upper body. So that really, all those muscles we've just done are mainly flight muscles. So let's do the fight muscles now. And as you breathe in, I'd like you to tense your fists. So clench your fists so you put tension all the way up your arms into your biceps and triceps. And as you breathe out, relax that tension again and let your hands just lie flat on your thighs again. Now let's do the shoulders. As you breathe in, try and touch your ears with your shoulders. And as you breathe out, drop them all the way back down again. Now we'll do all of the facial muscles. First of all, I'd like to teach you how to stop you clamping your jaw. So when our jaw is relaxed, the lips will be touching, but the teeth are apart. That releases tension in the temples. So to help you do this more of the time, touch your tongue to the roof of your mouth. Feel all the relaxation around the jaw and up in the temples. Now let's find all of those facial muscles that we find that we tense when we're angry or afraid. Check the muscles around your cheekbones, around your eyes, especially around the brows and the forehead. So find all the tension around your brows and let that go. And lastly, the scalp. When you release the tension in your scalp, you'll find that it seems like the side of your head drops down a little bit, your ears drop down a little bit. That means now that your entire body should be out of fight or flight. all of the major muscle groups should be relaxed. But let's just double check. If we start at the feet again and work our way up through the calves, the quads, the glutes, just make sure they're still relaxed. Don't re-tense them. Just check that they're relaxed. Hands and arms, shoulders. Drop your shoulders down when you breathe out. Jaw, so lips touching, teeth apart. Facial muscles, around the eyes and the scalp. And now that you've got an awareness of what it feels like to be relaxed physically, notice any tension creeping back in and relax them again. So now automatically your breathing will have slowed down. Just notice that for a few breaths. You can tell by the sound of your breathing. You didn't need to do anything because your heart rate's lowered now, because it doesn't have to pump the oxygen around your body to tense your muscles. It means you don't have to breathe as quickly. And you might find that the slower and longer in breath and slower and longer out breath make you feel calm anyway. So it works both ways. When your body's relaxed, your mind tends to relax, and vice versa. And your mind's done all that. It's automatically. Your body does it automatically. It stops the fast breaths and the shallow breaths. We go to longer, deeper in breaths and out breaths. So now let's think about how to get our mind to be in the present moment. So we're going to trick your mind. Trick it into thinking about 3 things. And those 3 things are going to be our senses, what our senses are noticing. The first thing you've already done, I'd just like you to listen to the sound of your in-breath and your out-breath, please. It's just the movement of air from the room into your lungs. And as you breathe in through your nose, the air is doing about 5 miles per hour. It's traveling from inches or maybe a couple of feet away from you as you draw it in, and the sound of the air traveling down the nostrils makes a sound. Same coming back out. So that's one thing that we can notice just when we're breathing. The next thing is, on your in-breath, I'd like you to notice your stomach, chest and shoulders expanding. So it's like blowing up a balloon as we breathe in. So the stomach expands, the chest and the shoulders rise. And as we breathe out, everything falls back. Let's try and focus on both things at once now. So the sound of your in-breath inflates your stomach. So notice the sound and the movement at the same time now. And the sound and the movement as you breathe out deflates your stomach. So you're letting all the air out of that balloon. Stomach, chest and shoulders fall back, and we make the sound of the air escaping. So you might say that the sound of your in-breath inflates your stomach, and the sound of your out-breath deflates your stomach. So now we've got the mind thinking about 2 things, sound and movement, or touch, because the movement really, you're noticing because your clothes are expanding as you breathe in. Your clothes are being moved across the surface of your skin, and nerve endings are sending signals back to your brain so you can feel that movement. So 2 things to think about is okay, but some of you might be finding that you can still think about other stuff and your mind wants to get back in. So let's give it a third thing to do. Now, the third thing is when you breathe in through your nose, you'll notice that the air feels cool on your nostrils. And when you breathe out through your nose, you'll notice that the air feels warm. So there's a subtle change in temperature. You're breathing in room temperature and you're breathing out body temperature. Just notice on your nostrils, cool in, warm out. Now let's try and put all 3 things together so that the mind is completely occupied with what's happening right now. Let's say that the cool sound of the in-breath inflates my stomach. So think about the temperature, the noise, and the movement of each in-breath. And now the warm sound of the out-breath deflates my stomach. So the temperature, the sound, and the movement of each out-breath. Try putting those 2 together now, in-breath and out-breath. The cool sounding in-breath inflates my stomach, and the warm sounding out-breath deflates my stomach. You may have noticed that your breathing slowed down again a little bit. So where's the peace of mind? Well, you're being occupied at the moment by thinking about these 3 things that are being fed back to you through your senses: sound, movement, and temperature. But there is peace of mind at the end of each out-breath. Now, I'll show you what I mean by that. At the end of your next out-breath, I would like you to count to 2 before you breathe back in. At the end of your next out-breath, I would like you to count to 3 before you breathe back in. So put a pause in. Pause before you breathe back in. Now let's move that up to 4. So we're going to have a stop at the end of your out-breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then breathe back in. Do that at the end of each out-breath now. Just wait. Don't breathe straight back in. Wait for a little period of time that you feel comfortable with, and enjoy the fact that it's still. You're not making any sounds. There's no movement. Everything's quiet and still. Just enjoy that now for half a minute or so. If you find that your mind can still be active, I'd like you to treat anything that you get distracted by, such as a thought or a sound, I'd like you to treat it like a train that doesn't stop at the station. You sat on the platform and the sound of the thoughts passes straight through without stopping, and you don't add another thought to it. And then bring your mind's attention back to your breathing. Sound, movement, and temperature of each breath. And then pause at the end of each out breath and wait. And then breathe back in. Now, I'd like everybody, please, to start counting back in your mind. Go at my speed, 200, 199, 198, 197, 196, 195, 194. Keep counting down. Try and listen to your breathing as well. 193, 192. And as my voice fades, keep counting down. 191, 190, 189, 188, 187, Okay, start to wiggle your fingers and toes. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes. And if you wish to, you can turn your camera back on. Okay, welcome back, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed that and you experienced some sort of physical relaxation and some sort of mental pause where your mind isn't thinking about the past and the future. Now, that's great if you can do that for 5 or 10 minutes a day. We probably did about 20 minutes there with our eyes closed. So if that seemed like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever, it means it worked for you. It means you stopped the clock in your mind, the clock that's always, you always know roughly what time it is and how long you've been doing something. So if it seemed like 5 to 10 minutes, great, it worked. So physical relaxation, stopping the mind going backwards and forwards in time. And then at the end, the counting down, that's the thing you would add on if you were trying to fall asleep. But if you're trying to fall asleep, do all three things. Don't skip any part of that. It's really important that when we're trying to get to bed, we're trying to get to sleep, it's really important that we release all the tension out of our body first. Any tension that's been kind of built up during the day, when we've been thinking about what's happening to us, what's happened to us today, or we might be thinking about what might happen tomorrow or next week or Christmas or next year or whenever. The mind's always skipping back 30 to 60,000 times a day. So we, as humans, it's great if we can just get a little bit of peace. Now, I want to leave you with one last thing, because my time's nearly up, is if you haven't got 5 or 10 minutes and during the day you get stressed about something, you can do all of that in one breath. And this is what I'd like you to try and practice. Next time you feel yourself getting angry, sad, jealous, frustrated, breathe in and tense everything, and then breathe out and relax everything, and then wait. That's the key. Wait before you reply to somebody or before you take an action. And in that way, you're just putting a little pause in before you react to what's happened to you. Hopefully that's been of use. And if anybody has got any queries, questions that we don't have time to cover tonight, on the screen there is my email address and my phone number. And anybody who's participated on Offload is more than welcome to contact me and ask me for any advice or any videos or resources that you want. But it's been a pleasure talking to you guys, and over to you, Paul.
Thank you, Russell. That was very, very good. Very interesting to listen to how you put all that together there. I'll just point my phone at my screen. I've got 2 of them books. So Chimp Paradox and The Power Now by Eckhart Tolle. I highly recommend them. Really good. If you're an overthinker like myself, you know, massively recommend those books. They really, you know, they really do help. The the QR code is on the screen, guys. So if you do get your camera up on your phone and you scan it, there's a short survey and there's a chance to win a shirt of your choice from the 2021 season, which is coming up for one of the rugby league teams that you support. So just a short survey. It'd be good to get some feedback so we know what we're doing well and also what we can improve on. But hopefully you all enjoyed that. I certainly did. So pleased that I come on this and listen to that, Russell. So thank you very much for that. So yeah, guys, if you want to do the QR code, if you've got any questions or you want to reply with anything, please feel free to use the chat. You know, don't go off here and wish you'd have asked a question. If you've got anything to say, guys, just put it in the chat there. And thanks very much. Thank you.